Steve. How are you doing?
To be sure. I'm all right, thank you very much. And how are you there?
Yeah, Cade me la falcha.
Yeah, that'll be about that then, to be sure.
Now, did you know, talking about that, and we did an episode recently about the Armada, didn't we?
We did,
and
yes.
The Spanish turned up on the western coast of Ireland. There would have been three words that would absolutely have put the bejeebers up the British, up the English. And they were terra marique putens. Ever heard of it?
No, tell me.
It means valiant by sea and land.
Ooh,
So if you were an Englishman, and of course you are an Englishman, and you do look a bit like somebody from the 16th century, I must admit. If you were there in your doublet and your hose and your massive cod, well, it'd be a small codpiece, wouldn't it? And you were wandering around the west coast and you heard those, you'd be looking out for a red-headed bint who would be looking out for you.
I've been in a few ports, mate, where there have been red-headed bints looking out for me over the years.
There'd be a woman looking at you from a distance and she had a great name, Gronja ni Walia.
Grace O'Malley.
Grace O'Malley.
That most remarkable Irish pirate and chieftain.
Grace C. O'Malley, think of herself to be no small lady, and she is writ large in history. What a woman.
But, you know, what a woman, but I wonder how many people know about her today.
The Irish do.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure
But the
they
English,
do.
nah.
Yeah, well, the English wouldn't have wanted to flag her up in their narrative, would they? Come on, let's be honest.
To be honest, I wouldn't have until you sent me this book. The Penguin Book of Pirates. She was mentioned after Drake, and I thought, wow, I've got to find out a bit more about her.
Yeah, she's quite an interesting lady, I must admit. So she was born around about, 10 years before Drake, actually, about 1530, I think she came onto the scene.
She was.
Into the O'Malley family of County Mayo.
Yeah.
And that family were part of quite a powerful seafaring dynasty. They controlled a lot of trade, and they also did their fair bit in bit of piracy along the west coast there of Ireland.
They also controlled the wind, according to legend. They could call up wind to blow themselves into safety and to hinder the enemy.
I know a lot of Irishmen that can blow up wind and then need to, mate.
Yes,
Indeed.
More than me. Yeah. So Gronja O'Malley, and funnily enough, what amazes me, I've got this book here I'm showing you. It's actually a graphic novel. Fantastic about her life. And of course, myth will play a lot into this. But she was a very interesting woman, so to speak. I think before the age of 23, she was a widower.
Really?
And she was very headstrong. There's a story of her childhood where she cut off her hair, and she was known as cropped hair or Gronja Wall, just to spite her father so she could go to sea on the ships.
Yes, because he didn't want her, did he? He didn't want her going on this trading voyage to Spain, wasn't it? That's where they were heading off to. And when he said that you're not allowed to go and do that, off she goes, cuts off her hair, and gets that wonderful nickname.
My kind of woman.
Well, she's a go-getter, mate. She certainly defied the norms of the time, didn't she? Particularly taking over the role of leadership in her clan once her father had passed away, commanding ships, leading raids, engaging in warfare, earning her that whole nickname of the Pirate Queen. What a wonderful woman. Outstanding. Have there been any films made about her?
Oh, I don't know. Good question.
I wonder
don't know.
if
I'm
they
looking
have.
up now.
I'll edit this bit out. This is where we play the long pause and some elevator music.
Full-length feature film about Grace O'Malley is planned in 2026 with Kirsten Sheridan directing. There is a short film, A Prelude to a War, a TV episode, Warrior Women. But yeah, it's coming.
Oh, wonderful. See, we're ahead of the game, Mark.
We are.
We are ahead of the game. We're putting this out there before 2026. We're just paving the way for this movie.
We set trends, mate. We set trends.
Totally, man. Totally. We always have, Mark. It's always been our way.
There is one thing I really admire about her, and also, and I'm reading the book you sent me, coming to it, is the fact that a lot of pirates were women. Yeah. There's Anne Bonny, there's Moll Cutpurse, and I've written a book myself about a woman who goes to sea. It is well known in the two books I've previously written that women did serve on the warships of the 1700s. And in fact, we do know of one who was a bosun. Now, you don't become a bosun, a warrant officer, without knowing your stuff. So this woman must have been a bit hefty. So I think the Victorians tried to wash out these women from history. So the likes of Gronja O'Malley in Western Irish culture, women were equal in terms of power sharing and respected.
Yeah, and why wouldn't they be? You know. In reality, why wouldn't they be competent people, irrespective of whether they're male or female? Competent people. That's what you want doing these sorts of things.
No braver seaman took a deck in hurricane or squall since Grace O'Malley battered down old castle walls.
And she was not only very capable in terms of being able to understand the maritime domain, she was also very savvy when it came to her strategies around marriage, wasn't she?
Yes. Well, marriage wasn't for love back then. It was contractual.
Sorry, has that changed? It's all about contract these days. Yeah, I know. She'll give me a slap later, I'm sure. So her first husband, Donald of Flattery, what do you know about him?
He died, didn't he?
He did die. Yeah, he died. Yeah, that's a good one. Well done.
Yeah, which kind of released her because she didn't want to be a pirate. She would rather be a stay-at-home mum looking after kids. But she happened to find herself in a period of time where England is starting to press itself into Irish lands. The Pale around Dublin was getting more and more advanced. You get these clans that were doing their best not to infight and to become united, but not always. So marriage enabled that. And what Gráinne needed, because she was from an island called Clare Island off County Mayo, it's not that big a real estate. It was mainly focused on the sea. What she needed was a strong power base on land to have those secure ports, rather than having to come into a port and find she's been arrested by British. And I think it was a guy called Lord Bingham who did everything.
Yeah, Sir Richard Bingham.
Yeah. So she needed wealth, and marriage would bring that, as well as control of lands and castles and a safe haven.
She was a very savvy lady, as I say, very savvy. And when old Richard Bingham started to suppress those Irish chieftains, she started to resist him. She started to carry out all of these little raids here and there, coastal settlements, demanding tribute from merchants, all of that sort of stuff. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, I think that Bingham captured all of her family and imprisoned them.
Yes, he captured her.
Yeah, but think about that. You know, when he captured her family, you're looking at the power of maritime England as it's moving in towards its ascendancy. You're looking at a very driven and motivated Ireland that is wanting to push its influence and its reach way, way further. And they come across this little Irish lady who they decide to suppress, imprison all of her family. Now, most people would be going, oh, that's me done. That's it then. I'm knackered. All my family's been taken and all the rest of it. And oh, woe is me. Oh, gosh, that's a bit of a nightmare. But what does she do? In 1593, she sails to England, meets Queen Elizabeth at Greenwich Palace to negotiate the release of her family. I mean, that's pretty ballsy.
It is.
That is pretty ballsy. And
she also supposedly had a knife hidden about her when she actually met her.
And I love the fact as well that she refused to speak English to the Queen. And because the Queen didn't speak Irish, they actually communicated in Latin.
I didn't know that. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah, I'm not speaking English. I don't give a toss if you're the Queen. And you can't speak Irish because you're not educated enough. So let's talk Latin. Brilliant.
I think the reason she went over to England, because after O'Flaherty died, she married again, Borg. And by the late 1570s, there was this what's known as surrender and regrant process, that effectively the British were starting to win, and they had to surrender and have fealty to the Queen. And that may have been one of the reasons she'd gone over there, to show her position to be negotiated with. In the graphic novel I've got, it paints it as two queens meeting. And interestingly, whoever's done this does Queen Elizabeth with this thing behind her. It makes her look like a vampire. It's very interesting artwork. But she was allowed in the presence of the Queen. That doesn't happen to everyone.
No, not at all. So she obviously had some clout about her, didn't she? She clearly had a presence herself. She was clearly somebody who was taken very seriously, because you cannot just sail a ship into Greenwich, demand a meeting with Queen Elizabeth, and expect to be granted it. She clearly had a presence. She clearly had stuff going on there, and was clearly recognised as a very high-level leader of her clan. Of her tribe. And I think that even though they decided on a truce, and I think she did actually secure some concessions and negotiated the release of her family, despite agreeing to the truce and all the rest of it, she then sort of went away, yeah, nah, I think I'll continue to engage in a little bit of piracy here and there.
She carries on, doesn't she?
And I might as well just stick my fingers up a little bit more against the English, so I'm never really going to submit to their rule. This is never going to really happen, is it? So, real character.
What's great about the book I've read as well, the graphic novel, it paints Bingham as real duplicitous guy. He's not pleasant. And it's nice when he dies because he's a hateful character. He's the one who forced the Queen's hand to go against the agreement they had. So you're dealing with not nice people on the fringes of the empire to be. And of course, they're making people's lives miserable.
Let's face it, Mark. Whenever you want to write a good story, you always need the English villain, don't you? Because the English villain is the quintessential villain in every story, everywhere.
Yeah.
Look at all the Bond villains. So many of them. English gentlemen.
Well, with the new owners of the franchise, who knows?
Oh, who knows? Who knows what we'll have then?
She died possibly the same year as Queen Elizabeth, in her 70s. Quite an old woman.
Yeah, about 1603 she died. Around the exact date of her death is unknown, but likely around the same time as Queen Elizabeth. So you've got these quite incredible women living at the same time, because Queen Elizabeth I was quite a remarkable lady, and Gracie O'Malley was quite a remarkable lady, living within spitting distance of each other, both ruling very differently, but still ruling. And, 73 when she died, that's not a bad age for somebody in that era.
No, and the fact that one of the stories of her, when she gave birth, I think it's to her son, it was on the deck of a warship during a battle. So that's the women of the era, I guess.
I tell you what, mate, this is the time when the ships were made of wood and the men and the women were made of steel. A bit like when we served.
Well, of course, it's all gone downhill since then, mate.
Oh, mate, I know.
There's an interesting thing. I don't know the answer to this. I just find this fascinating. We did an episode on the Armada and how a lot of the ships ended up in the west coast of Ireland, and they would have found a very happy and willing welcome. Now, I wonder, why would that have been? Well, the likes of Grace O'Malley was probably after the ships.
I think that there would have been more to it than just goodwill. She would have been after something or other. I don't think she's the sort of woman who would have done something without having at least a few moves on the chessboard being planned out somewhere along the line. And the hatred of England and the English. Yeah. So, enemy of my enemy, my friend. And so anybody that would have hated England, they would have wrapped themselves around. Let's look at the French with the Scots. They hate the Scots hated the English. So they would rather ally with the French than have a unified United Kingdom. Goodness gracious.
I think the whole story of Grace teaches myself something. It's a shame I've learnt it so late in life, but at least I've learnt it. How many other women or how many people are like her that over the years the British have tried to whitewash out of history? Because I was never told about her. I didn't know she existed until recent times. So it's like, why did I not know this woman? She's so integral to the era.
And this is one of the reasons why I think, and like the channel that you are working on yourself, your book ramble, to introduce people to books and to information that you won't normally get in today's world. It opens up such an interesting lens into the past. And as we have said before, that ripple effect from the past goes through generations. So this lady, she has a legacy in Ireland, as you say. I'd never heard of her, you'd never heard of her. But in Ireland, she's got a legacy as a folk hero. She is somebody who is absolutely legendary in Irish folklore. She symbolises resistance against English oppression. And she also is like the poster girl for the everything that epitomises the Irish womanhood and the strength of Irish women. Her legacy lives on. 400 years later, her legacy lives on. It's amazing.
It's a great thing to look up to.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Men and women, yeah.
And I think whether you are on the Irish side, the English side, the Scots side, I think to be able to look at these people and understand them in their historical context, understand what they brought to their people, what they were trying to do for their people, brilliant, so interesting.
And of course, it has to be said, eventually England did take over Ireland, and it would remain a part of the kingdom eventually of Great Britain and Ireland, and it became the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, now the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland since the 20s. So to have such a long period of history entwined and yet almost ignore most of the people that were brought up. And I think it's the same as Scotland and Wales. But yeah, fascinating lady, and I'm glad I came across her. I now put her as one of the ladies I really glad that I found out a little bit about and know is there. Just fills in that little gap, and it's just wonderful. I've really enjoyed getting to know Grania.
Yeah, great stuff. And I would encourage people, if they have never seen that book that I sent you, The Penguin Book of Pirates, it's a really neat little book. It's not a particularly difficult book to read. Real life accounts of the world's most notorious pirates, both men and women, from the golden age of piracy and beyond. So spanning about 3 centuries and 8,000 nautical miles. It's a really good book. If you can get it, pick it up. Well worth a look at.
But again, not wanting to put a downer on it. You like it, I like it, but it's because it's primary sources. It's not a novel.
No, it's not a novel, and you have to be able to read it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we talked a lot about that, haven't we?
We have indeed.
All right. So, Schlangefoil. Take care.
You take care, matey. Catch you later. Bye-bye.